Hello guys and welcome to the FPL Duo, and we are here for the team selection for Gameweek 5. We're also going to recap and highlight how Gameweek 4 obviously went as well. Now obviously this is a change of a certain time. We usually stream it around 8 o'clock, but because of Champions League football, we thought that we would stream a little bit earlier before obviously Arsenal and Atalanta kick off, amongst other teams as well. So this will be short and sweet, I think, obviously, because last game week wasn't that great. And also, in terms of the plans for the next game week, there is a lot to discuss. But before we get into this video, guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe for more, and leave a comment down below if you wish as well. And just to say one more thing, Huss is unable to join us on the stream, but he should be back for the deadline stream Saturday morning. So let's quickly get into it, guys, before obviously the 8 o'clock kickoff. So let's recap game week 4. We'll start off with Huss's team. So yeah, as expected, it was a very low scoring game week, very underwhelming for a lot of us. So his goalkeeper Henderson blanked in that. Obviously, I believe that was a draw. It was either a draw or win, but I can't remember. But yeah, it was only 1 point for Henderson in goal. In terms of defenders, there's no much to talk about. Robinson, obviously no clean sheet for him. Neither Trent, losing to 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. Saliba was the only player to receive a clean sheet, surprisingly, in that game. But yeah, gets rewarded with 5 points. Moving on quickly to the midfield. So Salah blanked. Obviously, Liverpool didn't score any goals. Rodgers has yet to return in obviously the season. He's come close. He had a couple of chances in the Everton game. Diego Jota, obviously 1 point. He only played about an hour of football. Smith Rowe, on the other hand, did manage to get an assist and a clean sheet point as well, making it on 7. Eze, again, another blank from him. More frustration for Eze owners. And finally up front, obviously, just to clarify, João Pedro didn't start in that Brighton game, so Wood is the auto sub off the bench as the first player, and he only goes away with 2 points in terms of Nottingham Forest. But the captain, again, Haaland, has prevailed once again with his 2 goals and bonus 3 points, scoring 26 with Huss captaining him. So, yeah, another good captain pick again from Haaland. And quickly on the bench, there's only really one person to talk about, and that is Aina, just to highlight his clean sheet against Liverpool. Very surprising result. But Nottingham Forest have played really well this season and have yet to lose. So, yeah, they're on quite a good winning streak thus far. So that's Huss's team highlighted from Game Week 4. Let me just move on to my team and quickly highlight how that's done in terms of Game Week 4. So starting in goal, I had Hermanson. Obviously, that game was a draw, 2-2, so only 1 point from him. Moving on to the back 4. So Robertson, no clean sheet for him, 1 point. He also picked up a yellow card. His team, obviously, next to him, Robinson, only 2 points. We've already spoke about him. No clean sheet against West Ham. Dunk, on the other hand, did get a clean sheet against Ipswich, which, yeah, I saw coming, but I didn't see the scoreline to be 0-0 in that game. Well, quite happy for Lewis Dunk to get the clean sheet, because it's the only return in terms of defenders / goalkeeper. And the auto sub, obviously for João Pedro, is Fai, who gets me 1 point, as João Pedro didn't start for me either. Quickly moving on to the midfield 5. So Rodgers, we spoke about blanks again, but had a couple of chances against Everton. Diego Jota and Salah, no returns for them because Liverpool didn't score in that 1-0 win over Nottingham Forest. Atoma, only 3 points. Obviously, there was no goals in that Ipswich game v Brighton. Palmer, only a clean sheet point as well. Only 1 goal scored for Chelsea, but he wasn't a part of the action. And finally, we spoke about Haaland doing well again. not a hat trick, but 2 goals and a bonus 3 points on top of that. So yeah, another captain flop for me again. Not looking good so far at the start of this season. But yeah, I forgot to mention, obviously, in terms of our ranks, we're both on red arrows. Very low score game week. I mean, Huss did better than me, 51 points, and only 37 points for me. So yeah, very tough game week. I think after the international break, hopefully it's much better come game week 5. So that's both our teams spoken about. That's in the past now, game week 4. I think that's better off forgotten of what happened then. Before obviously I move on to our teams and what it looks like for game week 5, I'll just read out a few of your comments and we'll move on swiftly. So we've got Patrick. He says, "Hi Jordan, any news on João Pedro or Calvert-Lewin? Is selling Wissa for Calvert-Lewin if he is fit?" In terms of news on João Pedro and Calvert-Lewin, well, let's start with João Pedro. I've not seen or heard any news, but he wasn't in the squad for yesterday's game where Brighton played, obviously in the Carabao Cup. So again, he was missing from the squad in that. I don't know what that means. Hopefully, Saturday before obviously deadline stream, we'll know more on João Pedro. But at this current moment in time, it's unsure how serious João Pedro's injury is. In terms of Calvert-Lewin, I haven't heard anything about him. Wasn't sure. Oh, I did say he was an injury risk, Calvert-Lewin, but I'm not sure about news on him either. Again, we'll have to look at nearer the time of the deadline to see what conditions both of those players are in. Well, your other question is sending Wissa for Calvert-Lewin if he is fit. Yeah, because Wissa unfortunately is out. That is obviously confirmed. I believe he is out for a couple of weeks. He returns, I believe. Well, it says he returns on the 23rd of November. So, yeah, he's definitely a sell for that ankle injury. But for Calvert-Lewin, I mean, if he is fit, it could be a 1 week punt to go on. I think I prefer going for Vardy, who plays against him. I do like a nice differential, and yeah, I think I'll side towards Vardy instead of Everton. I know Everton do score goals, even though they haven't won a game yet. But yeah, I mean, Leicester are home, so they are playing a home advantage. So I would maybe slide towards Vardy instead of Calvert-Lewin. And just a quick comment from Joseph says, just checking to say hello. Hello, Joseph. Hope you're doing well. Off to my pals now to watch Arsenal. Yeah, Arsenal kick off in about 15 minutes. So I will be also joining you in watching that game as well as your mates. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. So yeah, let's move on to our team selections for Game Week 5. So we begin with Huss's team and how he's set up and what he's lined up with. So let's start off with his goalkeeper and the back three. So he's going with Henderson, who has Man United at home. Very interesting fixture because Man United do come off of a 7-0 win against Barnsley in the other competitions. So yeah, it's a big game obviously for Man United in terms of Ten Hag, whether how long he's going to stay there for Man United and if they can turn around their bad run of form. I mean, obviously they did win 3-0 against Southampton, but can they continue that run and look positive long term? But in terms of clean sheets, I'm not sure. Probably a wipe clean sheet for the goalkeeper, but I believe he is the only playing goalkeeper that Huss has, so he has to play him. Moving on to his back three. So Robinson has Newcastle at home. Now, in terms of that fixture, Newcastle away is normally really poor for them, but they ironically did win away last game week. So it's a bit hard to tell what they're going to get from Fulham, but I've not really liked Fulham in terms of attackers. Like Menez hasn't really worked off. But Robinson has showed a bit of attacking threat I believe he has 2 assists this season so far. Not many clean sheets, but regardless, I think I'll play the fixture as it is home for Fulham. Moving on to the big game, the biggest game I think of the weekend, because this does depend on who takes first place in the table. But it is Saliba who has Man City away. So they are, well, obviously also are playing in a few minutes. Obviously Man City played yesterday at the Etihad where they shockingly drew 0-0. So yeah, it is a big game. Obviously, in terms of Arsenal defenders, why not play them against Man City? Who knows what is going to come out of that game? Should be a good one. And maybe there might be a few shocks. But yeah, Saliba does show some aerial threat alongside Gabriel. I slightly side towards more to Gabriel, but yeah, who knows what could happen. But I think Saliba is a good player to use in that game regardless. And finally, moving on to the last player, that is Trent, who has Bournemouth at home. Now, in terms of their last game, it was a shocking result, losing 1-0 to Nottingham Forest at Anfield. They will surely want to bounce back against Bournemouth at home. So, yeah, I do expect Liverpool to bounce back from this. I think because of the international break, it was a little bit screwed of results. But let's see what happens against Bournemouth at home for their second fixture at Anfield. So let's move on to the midfield 5 that Huss is on that with. So to go with the second Liverpool asset, that is Salah, who has Bournemouth at home. And he is currently the captain pick that Huss has chosen. Now, after his blank from game week 4, obviously I didn't feel many people with confidence, especially with Liverpool not scoring a single goal. But I think this week, considering Haaland does have a typical fixture against Arsenal, Salah could be the good alternative pick for this week. And like I mentioned, Liverpool want to bounce back after the defeat against Nottingham Forest as well. So moving on to the next player, that's Rodgers, who's got Wolves at home. Now, Rodgers does lack a bit of confidence, but he's getting the chances. And I keep saying this after each week, but he will finally return something, whether it's an assist or a goal. He is getting closer and closer to getting a return, and I think it'll be worth the wait. I think we did say we can't expect much from a 5 million midfielder as well, because the price obviously justifies the player in terms of form as well. But there is, I think, more to come from Rodgers. I know we saw a lot from Watkins last game where he scored 2 goals, and Rodgers on the other hand didn't get anything. But I do like Rodgers' minutes over Watkins. He plays 90 minutes, and he gives him that full opportunity, a full game to show his talent, and hopefully he grows confidence the more he does play for Aston Villa as well. And it should be a good fixture against Wolves, as they did concede 6-2 Chelsea as well. Moving on though to Salah's teammate Diogo Jota, also have Bournemouth at home. Now Jota did start in the Champions League match, so yeah, it's going to be very interesting how many minutes Jota does play against Bournemouth at home, because Slot did not rotate many players from obviously the team that played against Nottingham Forest in the Champions League. So we'll be interested to see how he manages minutes for Diogo Jota. But he should play some. It just depends how many he does. Possibly benched, but hopefully he does come on to get something. Yeah, or even better, he does start. Moving on to his next player in the midfield, that is Smith Rowe. He's got Newcastle at home, so a second Fulham asset that Huss is going with. Coming off an assist, Smith Rowe, he's looked good so far at his price. Slightly more edge forward than Rodgers in terms of returns. But yeah, he has Newcastle at home. Newcastle are leaky away. They do concede goals. So that does provide another opportunity for Smith Rowe to maybe get on the return score for Game Week 5. And finally, moving on to the last midfielder, that is Eze, who has Man United at home. So Eze has been sort of a frustrated figure, I think, for owners, because I feel like he should have had more than what he currently has at the moment. And I think a lot of people are getting frustrated with, obviously, Eze not returning as much as was he thought, because he has been getting the chances. He's just been unlucky, and especially when Crystal Palace had a penalty last game week and Mateta took it, it seems like Eze has lost his sort of place in terms of penalty taker as well. So maybe Mateta is the optimal value pick instead of Eze. He's a bit more expensive than him, but I think still Eze is a good asset to own for the fixture. And so moving on to the rest of the team and the information. So in terms of the forwards, he's gone with Haaland, who has Arsenal at home. No real discussion about that due to Haaland's form. Although he did not get anything in yesterday's game against Inter. So it was a very interesting game in the Champions League for Man City. And Haaland was really quiet in that game. Obviously a different picture scenario in the Premier League, but he does play Arsenal at home. So it is a big game for him and obviously Man City. It will be interesting to see how many people will captain Haaland for that game. Moving on to the next forward, that is João Pedro, who has Nottingham Forest at home. Currently yellow flagged for a knock. It's not entirely sure what the current situation is for João Pedro, whether he plays or not for Nottingham Forest. I think we'll hear more nearer the time of how serious his injury actually is. But hopefully it is a minor one and not serious at all. And hopefully he does start against Nottingham Forest at home, considering he missed the home fixture against Ipswich. And just to quickly highlight the bench that Huss is lined up with. So the non-playing goalkeeper, Valdi Martin, he's got Tottenham away. Woods has Brighton away along with Aina. And obviously Barco is loaned to Sevilla, so he won't be playing against Nottingham Forest at home. Huss has one free transfer, 1.2 million in the bank, and a 3-5-2 formation. Now, I believe Huss's plans, because of how the team looks, there's no real issues. Obviously, if João Pedro doesn't play, he's got Chris Wood on the bench to replace him with. So there are no transfer plans for Huss's team. He is going to roll the transfer over to Gameweek 5. So yeah, there's team that's fine. There's no flags to really worry about the João Pedro one, but he has got the bench cover in case of anything. So yeah, Huss is rolling for this week. Bit of a boring, obviously, move when we don't do any transfers, but if our team doesn't need it, then we obviously do roll the transfer. So yeah, no changes to Huss's team in that. That will be the lineup coming in the deadline stream. So moving on to obviously my team and how it's lined up for Game Week 5. I'll start off with my goalkeeper and the back three as well. So I've gone with Hermansen, who's got Everton at home. I think it's a good fixture for Leicester, considering Everton have lost 2-0 they were ahead 2-0 twice, and they've lost 3-2 in both games back to back. Leicester have a home advantage as well, and maybe there's a chance of a clean sheet there, but Everton have scored in most of their games, so it is a bit hard to tell what we're going to get from that. I would like a clean sheet from that because Hermansen isn't really picked because he's the Leicester goalkeeper, so I believe he's under 1.1% owned, so that'll be a great differential if he is to get a clean sheet. Or even save a penalty, that'll be even better as well on top of that. Moving on to the back three though, we've spoken about Robinson, who has Newcastle at home, so I won't go too much into that again. So let's move on to Robertson, who has Bournemouth at home. So obviously Huss has Trent. I have Robertson because I can't afford Trent. But yeah, I believe he's a good pick for that home game against Anfield. Should be a strong start for Liverpool, considering last game week where we thought, yeah, they have a good start against Nottingham Forest. Didn't turn out to be the way we thought, but they want to bounce back and stay, obviously, with Arsenal, Man City at the top of the table. So this is a definite must of having to win this game and get the 3 points. And hopefully there's a clean sheet in there for Robertson this week. Moving on to the last defender, that is Lewis Dunk, who has Nottingham Forest at home. and coming off of a clean sheet, very happy with him so far. Kind of wished a little bit more from him in terms of attacking returns from that 8-switch game. But it's happy to obviously have him for that Nottingham Forest game. I feel like it's the last fixture where Brighton clean sheet could be possible. After that, though, it does get a little bit more difficult in terms of fixture for Brighton. But the way they're playing at the moment, anything can surprise me, I think, in terms of that. So maybe it's not such a bad thing owning Lewis Dunk after Game 5. And let's move on to the midfield 5 that I've lined up with. So we've got Palmer, who has West Ham away. Comes off of a blank in the last game against Bournemouth. But a lot of people have been raising the question whether Palmer is worth the price and value of what he's currently at. Because he is similar to Saka in that respect. But yeah, I'm going to keep the faith with Palmer. I brought him in on the wild card, and with Chelsea's nice long run of fixtures, I definitely want a Chelsea asset in there. And I think Palmer is the ideal go-to man to go with. We spoke about Rodgers and Diego Jota, so I won't go too much into that. Even Salah. He is my captain pick this week. So yeah, hoping for a return for my captain this week instead of last week where he blanked. So fingers crossed I can get my captain right this week. And quickly moving on to Matoma to complete the midfield 5, who has Nottingham Forest at home. So it's double Brighton I've got with currently. Again, comes off of a blank against Ipswich. Never saw that coming, but hopefully Brighton are raring and ready to go against Nottingham Forest at home. It's going to be a tough one because Nottingham Forest haven't lost a game yet. Or not lost a game. They're undefeated so far in obviously the season so far. So yeah, it will be an interesting game for Brighton. So moving on to the front 2 that I've lined up with and the rest of my team. So I've got Haaland up front. He's got Arsenal at home. He's the vice captain pick. And I've also got João Pedro in the same situation where he's flagged. But in the worst case scenario, if João Pedro doesn't play or isn't featured in the game at all, then I've got Fires on the bench who has Everton at home. So it could possibly be a double Leicester defence if worst case João Pedro doesn't start. Also, Keane is flagged as well. He's got obviously plays against Fires. I believe he picked up a knock in the Everton game yesterday. So not really much to worry about, hopefully, for that. Wheatley's the non-playing forward in my team for Man United, who's got Crystal Palace away. And the goalkeeper is the same as Huss's, who's got Tottenham away. I have one free transfer and 0.2 million in the bank. Considering I wildcarded last game week, you guys are probably going to expect, obviously, what I'm going to say. So I am in the same boat as Huss. I am also rolling my transfer over at this current moment in time. Unless there's any serious injury news that follows up in the next 24 hours or so, then yeah, the transfer plans may change. But at this current moment in time, I will be rolling the transfer over going into Game Week 5 as well. So yeah, that's both our teams for Game Week 5 shown. We've recapped Game Week 4. So yeah, before we wrap the stream up, I will answer the last remaining questions before Arsenal kick off in a minute. So again, Patrick says, I have already played my wildcard, so I don't want Vardy because Arsenal in Game Week 6. Oh, that's fair enough, Patrick. Because some people are using a wildcard in Game Week 6. But yeah, if you don't want to bring Vardy in, that makes sense, obviously, in the wildcard because you don't want him for the tough game against Arsenal. But yeah, in case, I do have another suggestion instead of Calvert-Lewin, maybe a Welbeck. If we hear that João Pedro doesn't start, maybe a Brighton attack cover could be good as well. And Brighton's fixtures aren't so bad either. But if you want to go for Calvert-Lewin, that is fine as long as he is fit. We've got a comment from Brandon says, what do you think of Carvalho? He's looked good League Cup. Yeah, I quite like the look of Carvalho in the League Cup. But I don't know about obviously in terms of minutes he'll get for Liverpool in the Premier League is another question. But I do like him as a player. He is a very decent player, got good quality. Maybe Slot sees that, and maybe we do see him in a few matches for Liverpool in terms of the Premier League. And the last comment from Brandon: do you think Mbeumo is a must-have in game week 6 to 13? Yeah, I believe he is. I mean, in terms of fixtures for Mbeumo, they are really good in between those game weeks. The difficulty fixtures for Brentford do look appealing. I'm just going to get his fixtures up. So yeah, between 6 and 13, he's got West Ham, Wolves, Man United, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, and Leicester. So it's a good run of fixtures, and Mbeumo is still very low owned, at under 10%, considering considering he's scored 3 goals so far, 2 against Southampton and 1 against Crystal Palace in game week 1. I'm surprised that his ownership is only 9.1%. But yeah, I think he is a must-have in game week 6 to 13. A lot of people are going to bring him in on the wild card for game week 6 as well, so that is one player to consider. Just to answer one quickly from FN: bench headache, bench 1, Mazzarari, Robinson, Fies, Lewis, who has Arsenal. Depending on Mazzarari, I can never say his name. Mazzarari. Because he did go off injured. I'm not sure what his condition is at the moment, but in that case, I'll probably bench 5 if I'm honest, because I don't expect Everton to keep a clean sheet. No, sorry, what am I talking about? That's Fies. Sorry, that's Leicester. I don't expect Leicester to keep a clean sheet against Everton. I do see them scoring. I see both teams scoring in that game, so I probably would bench Fies and play Lewis, Robinson, and Mazzarari. I mean, in the worst case, Fies might come on if Mazzarari doesn't play for Man United against Crystal Palace. So that is it, guys. I think for this stream, obviously we spoke about team selections for game week 5. We'll be next streaming Saturday morning, I believe at 10 o'clock in the morning, to do the deadline before game week 5 kicks off. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you obviously for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the stream so far. And obviously, before we end this video, give this video a like, subscribe for more, and leave a comment down below if you wish as well. But I will be tuning out now. Obviously, the Arsenal games just kicked off, so I will be going off to watch that. But hopefully, enjoy the football. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we will see you Saturday morning for deadline stream. So take care, guys. And all the best.